You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started. This is your WXCO Daily News Roundup for Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 FM and 1230 AM in Wausau.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. A little more than half of Wisconsin students who took the state's main standardized test last spring met or exceeded grade level expectations in English language arts and math. But it's hard to compare the results of last year's forward exam because the Department of Public Instruction changed the scoring system. Water systems nationwide will have to get rid of their lead pipes. That's after President Biden's announcement yesterday in Milwaukee. Stuart J. Waddles was there.
Biden used his trip to Milwaukee to issue a new deadline for cities to replace those lead water pipes.
I'm announcing a new rule written into law from the Environmental Protection Agency that requires water systems across America replace lead pipe service in every single one in America within 10 years.
Milwaukee has the 5th highest concentration of lead pipes in the country. With the president in Milwaukee, I'm Stuart J. Waddles.
U.S. Senate candidate Eric Hovde is claiming FEMA is running out of money, but the Federal Emergency Agency says it's not true. Hovde goes on to claim in a social media post that money for Hurricane Helene relief is being diverted to illegal immigrants. FEMA says that's not the case either and is asking people to stop sharing the video. Young adults are registered to vote like never before. Vote.org reports signing up a record 800,000 new voters under the age of 35. Registration is especially high in states with abortion restrictions, like Wisconsin.
In spite of all that kind of dysfunction, they're being compelled to vote by a lot of issues they've also grown up around. This is the generation that grew up with mass shootings in schools.
John Marcus reports on higher education for the Heshinger Report. Blames supply and demand for higher egg prices. University of Wisconsin economist Andrew Stevens says this year's bird flu outbreak meant a lot of laying hens had to be euthanized, and it takes about 6 months to replace them. Stevens points out it's also the time of year when more people start baking again, which brings up demand. The Milwaukee Brewers will be on TV next year, but they won't be on Bally Sports Network. Major League Baseball says it will produce and distribute all non-nationally televised games for the Brewers. Bally's owner is in bankruptcy. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WXCO News, I'm Brittany Merlot. People all over Wisconsin are turning up the pressure to hold the mayor of Wausau accountable for moving the city's only absentee ballot drop box last month. There was a protest outside of City Hall last night where both protesters and supporters lined the sidewalk for over an hour, and many of them were wearing hard hats. The box is back, but critics say the public's trust is broken. Nick Ramos heads the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
The train already left the station at that point. You already created this chilling effect amongst people where they don't even feel comfortable putting their ballot into the same box that maybe their tax bill or water bill might go into.
The Wisconsin Justice Department is looking into whether Mayor Doug Dinney broke the law. At last night's Common Council meeting, Dinney opened the meeting to discuss the drop box. He also made a last-minute change to the wording of the resolution. Council members weren't happy and did not want to discuss it. A Wisconsinite has left the state and is headed to Tampa to help. As a volunteer with Amateur Radio Emergency Services, he's out of the Fox Valley area and a former Tampa Bay area resident.
What I'm offering is communications to talk to the outside world. Say your phone doesn't work and you've got relatives out in San Diego. You want to get a hold of them and just tell them, hey, I'm okay, but no way to get a hold of them. That's where we come in.
Dan Van Evenhoven has been doing this for nearly 40 years now, and he's been through major hurricanes before, including Katrina and, most recently, Helene. What he does is set up a hop, which sends a text message only.
When they're getting those messages out, it's very, very rewarding. In North Carolina, they were like, when are they going to get the message? They'll probably have the message within about a half an hour, 45 minutes.
He'll be stationed wherever he's needed the most, and usually it's in the center of the hardest-hit areas. Wausau's absentee ballot drop box is back, but the public's trust is gone. That's what Nick Ramos of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign tells us.
And there's people out there that want to be able to return their ballots, and they might not be able to go do that now because you just took away a very safe and secure method because of this big lie.
Protesters at City Hall last night want Mayor Doug Dinney held responsible for hiding the box last month. The Wisconsin Justice Department is looking into whether he broke any laws. Dinney maintains he had the right to do it. And more than 20 people spoke during the public comment portion at the Common Council meeting last night. It lasted more than an hour, with some people in attendance who don't even live in Wausau. No decision was made at Tuesday's meeting, and in order to vote on the matter, they would have had to suspend the council's rules. Failure to do so effectively killed the proposal for the extra security, so the drop box will stand in its place as is. Wisconsinites are rushing down to Florida ahead of the storm to help with communications, as the area is expected to lose power and cell service as Milton hits. A local volunteer with Amateur Radio Emergency Services is also a former Tampa Bay area resident.
What I'm offering is communications to talk to the outside world.
By setting up a hop, a text message can be sent.
It's very, very rewarding. In North Carolina, they were like, when are they going to get the message? They'll probably have the message within about a half an hour, 45 minutes.
Dan Vandenhoven has been through both Helene and Katrina with nearly 40 years of experience in disasters under his belt.
I took a helicopter ride to get kind of a perspective because there was people that were needing communications, and it was like, is there a path for me to get there?
He'll be stationed wherever he's needed the most, usually in the center of the hardest hit areas.
We try to stay safe. You know, it is what it is.
And that's what you need to know. I'm Brittany Merlot for WXCO.
The Packers back at practice. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Green Bay Packers installing the game plan for their matchup Sunday against the Cardinals at Lambeau Field. Quarterback Jordan Love has already thrown 5 interceptions this season, but says he knows he can do better.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you just got to be smart with the ball. You know, you look at last week and we're down, we're trying to make plays. So you're trying to force the ball and things like that. But it just comes down to being smart with the ball, and I got to do a better job with that.
NBA Bucks head coach Doc Rivers says they may have dodged a bullet. New guard Gary Trent Jr., signed from the Raptors, did not need an MRI after suffering a hyperextended elbow against the Pistons. Rivers says he may even be able to play tomorrow night when the Bucks host the Lakers. College basketball, Greg Gard says he's been impressed this summer by sophomore guard John Blackwell, saying he kind of reminds him of former Badger Johnny Davis, who's now in the NBA.
Came back in June. I felt he knew he was the best player on the floor. He wanted to dominate. It's just a competitive mindset to be the best on the floor.
That's Badgers head coach Greg Gard. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. If you haven't seen Wolverine and Deadpool yet, you're in luck. It's still in theaters. The film has taken in $633 million at the domestic box office, and it's been in theaters since early July. Showing some serious staying power, the Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman-led blockbuster came in 7th place this past weekend at the box office, still managing to pull in $1.5 million in its 11th week of release. That, folks, is what they call having box office legs. In interesting business model news, who doesn't love to be freaked out by their accommodations when traveling? That said, soon you can make your worst nightmares come true by staying at the house that was the setting for the 1982 film Poltergeist. The Simi Valley, California house just sold to a man hoping to not only turn it into an Airbnb, but replicate the movie set where a young girl got sucked into the TV set. Luckily, that is more unlikely to happen nowadays with the much less poltergeist-friendly flat-screen TVs. If you're sort of in the dumps about recent Star Wars shows not lasting so long, don't feel sorry for the franchise. The brand is as profitable as ever. The Hollywood Reporter says the studio made $1 billion from merchandising in 2023 alone. In a stroke of genius, Star Wars creator George Lucas negotiated for the rights to merchandise. The studios thought he was crazy and agreed. Lucas sold the rights back to Disney a few years ago for $4 billion. It's just that simple. All he had to do was create a profitable movie franchise. Word on the street is that actor Fart Smith and star of Independence Day, Will Smith, and Michael Bay, director of the first Bad Boys with Smith, are teaming up for a new action film for Netflix called Fast and Loose. Smith recently made headlines for having the worst smelling gas in the Western Hemisphere. Director Barry Sonnenfeld claimed that on the original Men in Black, Will ripped a doozy that closed down the set until the stench subsided a week ago Tuesday. Despite being married to the star of Sex and the City, Mr. Sarah Jessica Parker, Matthew Broderick says there are guest roles he had no problem turning down when offered so the two could work together. One role in particular the actor turned down was that of a premature, sort of sounds like miscalculator. Hey, that actually kind of makes sense. The New York Post reports that Parker says the couple doesn't work together because why would they? Stating a desire to keep their personal and professional lives separate.
It's official. Taylor Swift is the richest female musician in the world. To be honest, I couldn't believe she wasn't already. Forbes reports that the 34-year-old megastar has a net worth of $1.6 billion. That's impressive enough, but she officially became a billionaire just last fall, so the cash is still rolling in. Swift surpassed the former richest female musician, Rihanna, who has a net worth of a measly $1.4 billion. Sounds like Taylor can officially stop waitressing. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Mostly sunny today. We'll get to around 66 for a high this afternoon with a light easterly breeze. Tonight, clear, low of 40. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, 73. Friday, 68 with showers, highs in the 50s by the weekend. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Current temp now 37.
That's your WXCO Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at bullfallsradio.com. The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.